You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
Okay, now part two. Well, it was a lively part one, Tone. I've been, during the break, I've been reprimanded and I've been torn a new one by Tony, who said, you do nothing more than, I said, I do nothing of the sort. I said, you're in here because you're good value. And you've contributed beautifully, and I said, lighten up, man. It's let's not take ourselves too seriously. It's only
we love you.
Thank you, Dick. This is Dick. This is Dick from Muff, who has now assumed a position in front of the microphone. Now, we've gone too long with that last stuff because we've got the doc ringing in at 10:30. But you might like to know this, all of you, that a former Miss Universe is coming in. She was Miss Universe in when was she? She was Miss Universe in 1978. Beverly Pinder. She's coming in for an interview at 10:30. Imagine if she was over there on the couch listening to all this. I'd say she'd get in the truck and drive home. Anyhow, so we're going to push on until, I don't know what we'll do when Beverly arrives at 10:30. Not sure what we'll do. We'll have to probably do this short because the doc's ringing in at 10:30 and we'll give him quarter of an hour and Beverly...
Because his voice...
Beverly will have to sit over there and... I'm sure it'd be nice to look at Beverly.
I think it's great when Tony's on because you two go at it a bit. You know, I think it's always good to have a little bit of fireworks.
Yeah, the intermissions are good.
On the You Can't Be Serious show.
Well, Sam uses me for fodder.
No, I think you obviously have slightly different personalities. Wouldn't it be fair to say, Ivan?
I hope so.
I'll second that.
Anyhow, we've done the football and all that, and so
these Indigenous names, mate. What's going on?
So
could I jump in before you start? Please. There was an accident. Singapore Airlines this morning.
Wheels fell off today.
No, hit turbulence.
Yeah, I heard about it. Someone got killed.
A person got killed. There's about 30 people severely injured and about 50 Aussies on board. It was coming from London to Singapore.
Is that a Boeing plane?
Diverted to
yeah. Now, one thing I want to say is, that's all well and good.
Is that a Boeing plane?
Yes, it was a Boeing 777.
You know, you've heard about these people who are whistleblowers at Boeing who have been getting killed. Have you heard about that?
I have heard about it. That's another conspiracy.
Sorry, go ahead.
The climate activists have jumped on and said it's... you're getting more turbulence because of climate change.
That's bullshit.
Well, I thought that too, but I just wanted to run it past you.
It's not just bullshit, it's just so irresponsible that they're pushing a narrative, pushing a
fictional
cause
narrative
that is absolutely without foundation. Yeah, it's we've done this plenty of times. There is so much information that people put out and say that these weather changes have been going on for 100 years. There's no more fires, there's no more rain. It affects people more because the urban spread of where people live, it looks worse because there weren't communities out in those areas when bushfires and earthquakes were going, but now there is, and it looks worse because more people live in those areas. But we put up with this nonsense and tell you, if you see someone glue themselves to the road in name of climate change, please run over them.
Keep going.
Do you know how many...
Do
you know how many centimetres Sydney Harbour has risen since 1926?
How many, mate?
2 centimetres.
Jeez, we're going to drown.
So that's nothing.
Well, this polar cap melting is
rubbish. Of course it is, yep. It's just scare tactics, you know. I mean, when Al Gore did that documentary, we're all meant to be underwater by now.
But who benefits?
Someone like Obama who pushes this nonsense has bought beachfront property. You know what I mean? So they know it's not
in Arizona.
Well, and also the banks know it's not going to happen.
Stupid little brat, what's her name over in...
Greta Thunberg.
Greta Thunberg.
We know that.
God's name is fair dinkum. Someone should grab hold of her and take her around the back of a building and spank some sense into her.
Is she a spokesperson for the UN?
Hey?
Is she a spokesperson for the UN?
I think you're right.
Yeah, yes. I think she works for George Soros as well. You know, she's like funded by someone like that.
Now, and did you realise that... this is how well they're going in the States. They have cancelled traffic lights. They're not using traffic lights. They've pulled them out in Oakland.
Why?
Because thieves are pinching the copper wire that runs them, because copper is a required commodity and they're making money because people can't buy food because the economy's fucked over there. Mm-hmm. So they don't use traffic lights there now because people have pinched the copper wire that runs them. How's that going?
Well, America's at civil war, so
Yeah.
the place.
Did
is
you see
cooked.
that film? Civil War. There's a new film at the moment, which examines what would happen in a civil war, and it's really great. It's actually on at the moment, directed by a guy named Alex Garland, and really, really good film. It doesn't take sides. You don't know whether it's a revolution by the Republicans or the Democrat side, but it's just really worth seeing. But America's being third worlded at the moment. You know what I mean? When people are stealing copper, that's the kind of thing that happens. You know, when you go to Africa, for example, I've been to Africa. You know, the railway lines in Uganda, when I visited there, Idi Amin put in a railway, and all the tracks were stolen by the locals because they wanted to build things with it, or they wanted to melt down the. So it's a sign of the third world. Sam, what do you think?
I was just going to read you something that they are ganging up for when Trump becomes the president.
Oh, he's
They
definitely
are
looking good, isn't he?
Ganging up to.
He's looking strong.
I just was going to read this. They're starting now to ramp up the fact that there's going to be a civil disobedience and a civil war in the States. And they're stuff. If I can just find that, I can't find it. But
Dick,
Well, a civil war's always been possible.
what do you think? How would the outcome come about if Trump didn't get in?
Well, look, it's a very difficult situation. Obviously, Joe Biden's conducting lawfare against Donald Trump. He's basically using the Justice Department under his control to attack his political enemy. This is banana republic stuff. Yeah. And it showed recently, there was a news announcement the last 24 hours that Biden, he authorized the use of deadly force on the raid on Mar-a-Lago, which was like, in other words, basically the police could just shoot Donald Trump over this raid. It's ridiculous. This is really serious because, a civil war could actually, and it would probably be similar to the South versus the North. It would be the southern states. And that's what this film does show. It shows Texas and Florida who are fighting the North.
Tone's got an interesting thing about Iran in a minute, so we just... we had
that helicopter.
So,
Flyer.
So this is what this is from the tissues here, the papers. This is George Soros is ramping up.
Yep.
When President Trump is re-elected, what we are witnessing now is the slow burn leading to the big events to come in November. The globalist agenda is failing badly. The establishment is betting everything on triggering a civil war in America. When Trump becomes the president, they're going to start seriously a civil war.
I think it'll happen before.
While Joe Biden's the president?
No, I don't think it'll happen while Biden. I think it will happen like Sam says.
They're ramping up for when Trump wins.
Yep.
Why do you say
I think they're going to let him win. They cheated, obviously, in the 2020 election because no way Joe Biden won that election. No way.
Trump has 70% support from the Americans.
You would think.
I think something substantial will happen.
Tony, you think he might have 90%? There's no way they'll let him become the president. They'll either murder him, or they'll
allow the
they're trying to chuck him in jail,
or he'll put him in jail, or he will become the president and they won't let him govern. They will start a civil war.
Deep state. Yeah.
Don't worry. So you had a theory when
it was
your theory, Tony.
I actually want to go over. I want to digress for a moment, Sam.
What's that?
So the last time I was on the You Cannot Be Serious podcast, we were speaking about wokeness and the federal government and Anthony Albanese.
Yes.
And then you were highly critical.
Yes.
And then I think about 3 to 4 weeks later, you went to the send-off for Neil Mitchell.
Yes.
Weren't some of those people there? The Prime Minister, the Premier?
Yes. The Premier wasn't
sorry,
there.
the former Premier. I don't think
He wasn't there.
No, but there was...
No, but it's go on.
I'm just wondering how you went
The
from being
Premier
highly
wasn't there
critical.
because hang on, the Premier, what's his name? Andrews,
Daniel Andrews.
wasn't
Daniel
there
Andrews.
because he wouldn't come on Neil Mitchell's show, so he'd hardly be there.
Yeah, no, that was
because
by
he
far.
didn't like Neil questioning him about how corrupt his government is, or was,
Yes.
how dishonest that government was, and how they plunged us into a state of decay and
Darkness.
chaos and darkness through the COVID bullshit they went on when they lied about it all. So go on.
So anyhow, after your criticisms of the federal government
Yes.
and the people in charge, I was wondering how you actually went with the Prime Minister in that room.
Are you serious? If Neil, if you
cannot
asked
be
me,
serious.
if you asked, you cannot be serious. If you asked me to come to a function at yours, and I was a friend of yours, and you said I'd like you to come along, and I got there, and there was people I thought were shitheads. What? That's what you say. You should remain a prisoner.
No. I'm just wondering whether there was any discussions or.
Hey, if I saw anal, if I saw anal,
Is that the Prime Minister?
Anal,
Still.
Anthony Albanese, as opposed to ScoMo, anal.
Yep.
If I saw anal there, if he wanted to say, I'd shake his hand and say, how are you? You can have a disagreement about people's politics or religion or football sides and have a civil conversation with them. And if they want to actually discuss why you disagree with what they say, you'd be you would be erudite enough or smart enough or educated enough to say, well, I have plenty of those discussions about Trump. People say Trump's an arsehole and he's a dangerous man. And I say, why do you say that? I have very civil, sensible conversations with people who disagree vehemently with my opinion about Trump. And we have a discussion about it. That's what communication is about, Tony. That's why when I discuss things with you, it shouldn't ever get to the stage where there's any acrimony between us. It's only just a chat. You can have your opinion and I have mine.
No, I agree. And then that's why I was wondering whether there was any discussions. I don't know, just whether you spoke with the Prime Minister, whether he was aware of your comments.
No, well, the Prime Minister breezed into the function, spoke, and then breezed out. It was just a photo opportunity to probably gain some popular picture opportunities. I'm sure the Prime Minister would know of me, because when I said to the man that used to sit where you are as a throwaway line, we should boo when there's welcome to country ceremonies on. Well, I just said that to Don Scott to get his attention, and that went round Australia saying I told people to boo. I should have said people should just groan or sing another
slow
song
hand clap.
or a slow hand clap, yes, to show their to show their complete disgust at the fact that we keep dividing this country. We have become second-class citizens, the white people and everyone that's immigrated here. We have become second-class citizens. We're welcome to a country. Whose country? The previous inhabitants of this country weren't the original landowners of this country. We are all Australians. Why do we segregate people? I keep going on about this, and people say, "Oh, you're a racist." Racism is just a lazy way of not having anything else to say because you've got a feeble mind.
Yeah, it was invented as an insult by Trotsky, believe it or not, who's a Bolshevik, and he suggested that accusation of racism be used against any enemies of communism.
Tony, so we off air had a very sensible discussion, which I don't think we perhaps didn't agree on. You said, what did you make of the helicopter going down and killing the leader, the second most powerful or third most powerful person in the world, the leader, no, not the leader because the Ayatollah is the leader,
the president
of Iran. And I said, and you said, what did you think about that? And I said, what did I think about what? And you said, well, do you think he'd be just a helicopter, or you thought there might be something nefarious, that he might have been taken out of the air by
obviously
whom? Tony.
Israel.
Sam, look, I don't know. This is just, it would seem odd that one of the most powerful persons on the planet who controls Iran with the Ayatollah was in a commuter helicopter and that was shot down over Tehran. It just didn't make any sense.
And I said, I hear what you say, Tony. What are you saying happened?
No, I'm not saying anything. I don't know, but
surely you have to be suspicious of
and then what
Israel.
Did I say about those people?
Mossad.
Well, you repeat that, Sam.
No,
I
said
that they were unenlightened.
I said, well, I did from our point of view. I said, when you have a regime that suppresses every single thing that the Western world thinks is wholesome and good to be part of, but they have a completely different culture and suppress everything except for the top leaders who run the country and live
for gas and oil,
live the high life. That's right. Gas and oil. They use gas and oil. They couldn't give a stuff.
I think the significance of Iran is that they're the major allies of Russia and China, and obviously resource-wise, you know what I mean? And that's why when you attack Iran, you're really attacking Russia and China's resources. So that's why it's dangerous.
So people might say, what's wrong with Russia and Iran and China being
part of the BRICS nations?
What?
Part of the BRICS nations.
They are indeed.
Yes,
with
what's-
South Africa and
Well done.
the other country?
Well done. Is that bricks and road stuff?
Belt and Road.
What is it?
No, he's thinking of something else.
something else. Belt and Road is different to BRICS.
No,
Google them to find out.
that dictate that China do. What's it called? The road.
Belt and Road.
Belt and
Belt
Road.
and
That's
Road.
one Daniel,
Daniel Andrews, the
Not
communist,
bricks
he
and
was into
road,
that.
Tony.
That's right.
Yeah, so it was an interesting observation. You thought there was a conspiracy that the third most powerful person in the world wouldn't be in just a helicopter flying around in the middle of.
What do you think happened, Tony?
a snowstorm.
What are your opinions?
Yeah.
Well, I don't-
Can you conjecture?
No, you wouldn't find Joe Biden or Rishi Sunak in a
say the vice
in
president
a commuter
of
chopper, or
America.
Anthony Blinken, or whoever. You're not going
How
to.
do you think they got him in there?
No, I'm not conspiring anything. I'm just suggesting that the question surely would remain that.
Do you think the
Something
Iranians
isn't
did it,
right.
maybe?
No, well, I don't know.
I mean, it could have been an internal situation. Obviously, in a country like Iran, when somebody falls foul of the top bloke, you can just bump them off.
But there was one thing that was very telling. The Iranians themselves could not even find the aircraft. They had to ask Turkey to pinpoint a heat spot.
I imagine probably Israeli intelligence found out that occasionally that the president used this helicopter. I imagine they sabotaged it, and that's that.
That could have been it. Yep. But
Now-
it's
now
interesting.
You've got to have a destabilised situation inside Iran because Iran was involved in these Hamas attacks. They funded it and were part of the planning of it. And so, there's obviously always been a huge animosity between Israel and Iran. It's been going back for many years.
It just seems they've got this great technology like nuclear and things like that, and then there's this middle ground. They've got nothing.
What, Israel?
No, this is Iran, and then they
Israel
just
has nuclear weapons.
yeah.
Had
So
them
does
for
Iran,
40
but
years.
how come their technology couldn't even find their own aircraft for a couple of hours?
That is strange. It's a strange
Yep.
situation.
Yep.
Do you got a dog?
No.
Anyone got a dog here?
I used to have a dog.
Did you? I had. Well, here's the doc. I think this is the doc, is it? Oh, here he comes. Here
What
we
about
go.
the dog?
Butcher. Hello?
From the dog to doc.
Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Hello. Doc, fantastic. We got the tech. I tell you who's Tony Sheehan's here. We haven't mentioned.
Oh, Tony Sheehan's back.
We haven't mentioned the last.
Is he trying to start it? Is he trying to start another fight?
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
yes.
And
I thought you were going to defend me, Benjamin.
Oh, yeah. Good luck.
Andy,
Have I hurt his feelings too, Sam?
who?
Ben's.
I don't think so. And Tony said, by whatever you do, don't mention the.
No.
No.
Right, so we haven't
Don't mention
mentioned
what?
the Uber
What we
thing.
can't
We haven't
mention.
mentioned that. We did not. So I didn't bring it up with him. The Uber.
What's the Uber thing?
Don't worry. No, we're moving on to Paul Silver, Benjamin.
You know, when he relieved the Uber
No,
driver of
no.
his. Right. So and then we
Oh,
got.
yeah. I want to know a bit more about that, mate. So, what did you flog an Uber? Did you flog a car from an Uber driver?
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Where's Paul Silver?
And
Mate,
so-
I'll get to Paul Silver in a moment, but how did it happen exactly, this whole Uber theft?
Well, you've got ears. You heard the podcast last time.
Oh, yeah, but did you give the full story?
Absolutely.
I've been torn a new one for even mentioning it off air. So
No, we're going to go down to King's Cross and find some of Ben's ghosts.
No, well, mate, I just, if there's a story to be told, I just thought from memory you might have been dancing around the details a bit last time, but if you've given a full and frank account of when you knocked off an Uber, then full credit to you.
See,
Well,
now that's,
Ray Hadley's coming on in 30 seconds.
so that's one of Tony's tactics. He said we'll go down to King's Cross and have a look at some of your exploits. When I brought it up earlier in the part one, he said, "Oh well, let me tell you about some of the things I know about you." I said, "Well, go ahead." And he nothing. I got crickets. I got.
Go for your life, Tony.
No, that's what we got.
If you're gonna,
Another,
mate, if you're
another
going to be a
setup.
bomb thrower, mate, we want a bit of kaboom.
And so we've got Dick from Muff here, and
Yes.
we got Ivan
Yep.
here,
Howdy.
and Tony did mention, I didn't know this, but did someone round you up at the studio or something? Or you're going to mention that, are you, Mr. Silver? Is it? Or
Well, why don't we ask the Uber thief Tony Sheehan to give us a background
This
on
is
it?
great.
Is Ray Hadley there?
Come on, what's the background on Paul Silver?
Yeah, go on.
Well, he took you to task on your low-rating radio show.
Well, look, I'll tell you the full story. I'll tell you the full story. And the ratings would have gone up the day that Paul Silver was on, because what happened, Paul Silver is a Black Lives Matter activist, and he's a protest organiser for BLM, and that's fine, that's what he does. But he came to my attention because he posted a video on social media of him being stopped by a traffic cop in New South Wales, and he proudly told the traffic cop that whatever law the traffic cop was trying to enforce did not apply to him because he's Aboriginal. So he said, as an Aboriginal man, your law does not apply to me. Now, the law that the officer was trying to enforce was the one that says you're not allowed to use your mobile phone while driving. But Paul Silver thinks that because of his skin colour, that law does not apply to him. So all I did is I just called him out on air and said, this bloke seems confused because he thinks the law doesn't apply to him. Well, guess what, mate? It does. And if you need any proof of that, have a look at the fact that you've been busted for driving and touching your mobile phone at the same time, and you're now going to court. So I just gave him a bit of a touch-up. Anyway, he didn't like that. So he called in, and he then threatened me, Sam. He threatened me. He told me, he said, well, you keep an eye on the 2GB car park. You've now got a target on your back. And I thought to myself, I think this bloke is trying to scare me off in some way. So I put all of it to air. Well, not all of it, but I put a significant amount of this spray that he was giving me to air, because he'd called in while I was still in the radio studio after the show. So he said, I want to come on air and I want to give my side of the story. I said, mate, you're on air right now. And then he proceeded to threaten me. And now, can you believe it? Now he's blowing up because he doesn't like the fact that I put it to air. But as I said to him, mate, if you're going to go trying to threaten people and tell people there's a target on their back, there are some people who will walk away and go and hide in a corner, and there are other people who will say, bring it on. And that's what I did to him because, mate, there are too many of these people that operate on the basis that if you issue a threat to someone, that all of a sudden they're going to shut up. Well, that's not the way I operate. If you threaten me, I'm going to make a louder noise. So that's what I did with Paul Silver.
And so Mr. Silver...
They're bullies, mate.
Mr. Silver would probably be under the misapprehension that if he torched your car out in the car park, the law wouldn't apply to him and they'd just look at it as a campfire or something, and he would get away with it because the law doesn't apply to people who are BLM
could be an Aboriginal
activists.
smoking ceremony.
Yeah, I mean, it's also just plain dumb as a leader. If you can call yourself a leader in your community, and he sees himself as a leader in the Indigenous community, don't go fooling young Indigenous kids into believing this bullshit, because guess what? They'll soon discover when they've got a pair of handcuffs around their wrist or a taser being stuck on their bum or them being marched into a paddy wagon or a courthouse that, in fact, the law applies to everyone. You're not helping your own people by spreading these false messages.
I'd like to see his funding that guy too.
Mind you, Doc, when he said that he was a member of a BLM activist, all bets were off after that, because the BLM are just a domestic terror organisation, so I wouldn't take anything on face value after that.
No, well, it certainly did pop out on the page when I noticed, apart from this guy claiming the law didn't apply to him, he also happened to be a BLM protest organiser. So but
I'd love to see who's
Paul
funding him.
Silver, I don't know whether he's a You Cannot Be Serious podcast listener, but he has been phoning me. He's been phoning me here at 2GB for days now, and I've only put him on air once.
Well, Ben,
in fact, when he phoned yesterday, I just said to him, "Hey mate, do you want to meet up and have a coffee?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "No, I want nothing to do with you." I said, "All right." I said, "Well, I'm just letting you know, mate. I'll meet with anyone for a coffee." I said, and I'll tell you over a coffee what I'll tell you to your face or over the air or anything else about what I think of your opinions and the kind of stuff you're spreading. So, yeah, no, I'm not intimidated by it.
Doc, if I may, if you are speaking to Mr. Silver, if you've become best friends, ask him would he like to come on You Cannot Be Serious. We would love to speak to him on You Cannot Be Serious. We'd have a very sensible
I've got his phone number here. I can give it to you if you like.
Conversation
I think Black Lives Matter are underrepresented on this show, don't you think, Sam?
Yeah, Black Lives Matter, that's right.
Well,
Get him on the boat in
talks about them
Queensland.
enough. He talks about them enough. And
Sam,
What's that?
fly him up to Early Beach and have a coffee with him.
That's a very good point. Yeah, very good point, that, Tony. Tony
we could put him in an Uber, Tony.
Just know how to steal it.
Now, Benjamin, I'm in Sydney next week. Why wouldn't you do some investigations on what happened and say this was a medical episode which I fell foul of some orders?
Some steel knocks.
What are you in court on this next week?
No, I'm coming up for a business function.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so what, you're in Sydney and what, you want to talk about the whole Uber thing?
No, I don't want to talk about the entire Uber thing.
Why don't you get him on? You could get him.
Talk
Get him
about
on the show.
Still knocks and how it's a medical situation.
Yeah, he was on Still Knocks. Can you believe that? He had Still Knocks crushed up in a little plastic sealed bag, and he said it was Still Knocks.
I nearly hijacked a plane one time when I had steel knocks. Nearly got me.
Yeah.
But
Now,
I went to sleep instead.
What did you mix with the Still Knocks, Tony?
Ooh,
15 beers, Ben.
15 beers.
15 beers.
Oh, well, I think there's an expectation that once you go over 14 beers, you're in trouble.
You are.
Yeah.
What, so Jackie O takes Still Knocks and puts her head in a microwave, and she's allowed to get away with stuff, and I do it, and I'm hauled over the coals by Newman and Fordham.
She didn't hijack the microwave, did she? And drive it to another suburb.
And she's never stolen an Uber, as far as I know, Jackie O.
No, I borrowed it, Ben. I gave it back to the bloke.
Oh, well, that's fair enough. So there was a misunderstanding.
Well, I can't even remember because I'd had 15 beers in the
You
Still
certainly
Knocks.
didn't plan to keep it. So it was only borrowing.
No. And mate, was he of the belief that you were just borrowing it?
Who's he?
The owner of the Uber.
The Uber driver who you flogged the Uber from.
Did you set me up, Sam?
Mate, I've just taken the call from Ben. You started off by saying, why don't you
Maybe we
speak to
should
Ray
change the
Hadley?
topic.
I don't know what Ray Hadley's
Let's change the topic. What do you think of the whole Gina Reinhardt and Vincent Yamangira thing, Ben? There you go. With the artwork that Gina wants removed from the gallery.
Yeah, look, a couple of things. First of all, I believe in freedom of speech and freedom of artistic expression.
Sure, I agree.
Because but also I can understand that in the age we're in, 2024 and whatever, that if people feel like an image has been painted in some way to body shame or appearance shame someone, that would be something that would be of concern. But the big lesson here for Gina Reinhardt is what they call the Streisand effect, which relates to Barbara Streisand and the fact that many, many years ago, there was a plan for someone to take some aerial photographs above
Beachfront,
an area where she owned a property. She decided she wanted to fight against it because she didn't want anyone to know what her house looked like from the sky.
Yep.
And because she made a big deal about it, then everyone then went and had a look at these images, and everyone found out more about it. And the Streisand effect essentially means be careful about trying to stop something and in the process making it even bigger than it was ever going to be. Now, this painting of Gina Reinhardt, 16 people would have seen it if it wasn't for Gina blowing up about it. Now everyone's seen it.
What did you think of the artistic quality of the work, though, itself? I mean,
it was very abstract.
I mean, it was very abstract. I had a look at the work of Vincent Yamangira, and I don't know. I just thought the artwork was kind of terrible. All the artwork of this artist.
But Ben, Mr. Namatjira, as I presume is his father, was it?
Albert Namatjira was his great-grandfather.
Anyhow, Mr. Namatjira can paint stuff any way he likes.
Sure.
And if he submits it to the gallery, but Gina Reinhardt surely has the right to say, well, I don't like that painting. It's of me. Can you take it down? Or doesn't she have the right to do that?
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think you've got a right to say what can and can't go up in an art gallery.
No, fair enough.
And, at the end of the day, he can always turn around and say it's not her.
It looks very like her.
Unless she claims it's defamatory.
Yeah.
He does these paintings, but they really look like they're the paintings of...
we'll have a look at Picasso.
But it's different. And there's actually talent involved.
But I don't know whether
Picasso,
it is because... my sister Sarah is a terrific artist, and if you have a look at some of her work, there'd be people saying, well, that doesn't look like Sam Newman, but that's not her style. I think I think you're right, Sam. I think if you have a look at Picasso's work as well, you could say, well, it's an interpretation, and if everyone looked at it and went, oh, shock horror, that's me, and I'm insulted by it, I think if she had a time again, Gina, she would have just offered the bloke $1 million for the painting, and it would never have seen the light of day again.
She could have bought it and burned it.
I've just brought up a couple of pictures of Picasso's, and if you can say that beside the name, if you can say that is art, your child could have done that stuff.
Not Picasso, mate.
That's
genius.
Don't get emotional with the name. Have a look at that. If someone showed you that,
that's beautiful.
That is bullshit, mate. You know it's not beautiful, and you're just making that up.
I mean, no, I know the art movement that Picasso's involved in. Obviously, not everybody likes the way
some of his
art
work was crap. That's crap.
And Sam, can I just get an update? What about the missing painting? You spoke recently about a painting that was done that had significance as far as AFL's concerned, and fears that it might have gone missing.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
No, that was a young lad who came in, and I did a piece to camera with him out in my warehouse about the painting he did of the team of the century for Geelong. I can't remember his name, but he was very happy to me to put it on Channel 9, and he got a bit of publicity over it. And I asked him to come on the podcast, and he said, "No, I won't be coming on because you're a racist." And I said, I said, "Why am I a racist?"
I'm aware of all of that, but
yes.
Where is this painting?
Well,
because you gifted it to Geelong.
I did. I gifted it to Geelong, and someone kindly who listens to this podcast said it was hanging up in the Jack Jennings stand, or the Jack Jennings room, and it was there large as life, and it was a very big painting, and so I'm glad someone hadn't pinched it and taken it home and had it as their own art piece in their own house.
Okay, so it is there, because I was just worried that it may not have been there. What did you pay for it?
I was under the influence of Stillnox, and I reckon I don't think I'd had any of the Bolivian booger sugar like Tone had, but I'd had a number of beers, and I outbid the president, Frank Costa, who was a billionaire, and I said, "Oh no, Frank, I think I paid $70,000 for it." Maybe I've made that up. Maybe I didn't pay $70,000. It's a long time ago.
Holy hell!
And I don't think I did pay it. Now
that's why you're wondering where it was.
I've probably misrepresented. I paid like 30 or 40. I can't remember.
But you reckon it's above $10,000?
Oh, absolutely. It was above $30,000.
My Lord!
And so it was a very.
Do you know what happened? Just on auctions, you know when you've been at a charity auction. I was at a charity auction on Friday. I went to Tamworth in the regional part of New South Wales because there was a police officer up there who had an accident. He's become a quadriplegic, and anyway, the coppers were putting on a fundraiser for him, and they asked whether I'd come up and speak at it. So I went at it. When I'm at one of those things, I like bidding on the charity auction to try and push the price up and raise more money for the charity. What I don't like to do is to be the highest bidder on any item, right? So this is my form of gambling, right? I don't play the poker machines. I don't punt on football or horses. But my form of gambling is that white-knuckle ride when you're bidding on something that you clearly do not want to win, and then you're just hoping that someone's going to come in above you and you're going to raise more money for the charity. So I was playing that game on Friday after consuming a few drinks and thankfully no Stillnox. And anyway, I ended up buying a $2,000 Kelpie working dog.
Oh, Kelpies are cute.
How old?
No,
How old? How old?
It's not even born yet. It's being born in July.
I'll have it if you don't want it.
Well, and this is the thing. I'm like, and when I got stuck on it, I was like, oh, holy shit. So anyway, $2,000 working dog Kelpie pup.
Oh,
and I had to text Jody and I said, listen, I got a bit of news. You know, like where we live in Sydney is not the appropriate location for a working dog. I mean, these things run thousands of kilometres around the joint. So anyway, this bloke felt sorry for me, a bloke called Mick Kelly from Kelly Transport. And he turned around and said, hey, mate, do you really want that dog? And I said, no, I don't. And he goes, I'll take it off your hands for you.
Nice.
So God love him. I managed to dodge a bullet.
Well, you could have bought a country property and called the dog the Doc and had it train it up to bring
do as you will.
Yeah, go and attack people like Mr. Silver.
Yeah, or I could have sent the dog to round up Don Scott on his property.
You could have.
That's it.
And then he can finally return to the podcast instead of wasting away and doing God knows what.
God knows what. You'd probably go down and Don would have it on a spit and roasting it. He probably would eat it.
Dear.
Now, Doc,
You know who you should get? You know who you should get on the podcast?
Who?
I'm just reading here about there's a girl called Annie Knight. Annie Knight.
The OnlyFans girl.
Apparently, yes, apparently she is one of the biggest OnlyFans stars in Australia. And I know that you've done some of these interviews before, Sam, where you talk to people who've got interesting jobs and, you know, they might work in a field that may not be, you know, the kind of thing that you talk about when you're hanging out with your grandma or other polite company. But yeah, mate, this whole OnlyFans thing is just fascinating, where people have realised that they've got a God-given gift. In other words, they look really good. They're aesthetically pleasing. They're keen on the eye. They're nice on the eye, and she obviously is. And she's now got this whole career that's based on OnlyFans. I think you should track her down and get her on the podcast.
Be the next step up. We interviewed Miss Pornographic Nude World here. What was her name?
Dolores
Salvatore or something. And Don. And she told Don off air that she had a horse. And I got her on to speak about Miss Nude Pornographic World. And Don spoke to his first three questions about the horse she had. And I said, Don, if you think we're going to speak to Miss Nude World about horses, my next question was, how do you prepare yourself for anal sex? And she was delighted. She said, I get asked that a lot. And she went into chapter and verse how she prepared herself for that. Don at that stage went out and made a cup of coffee out in the kitchen.
Wasn't interested.
Yeah, he wasn't interested.
Oh, that's too good.
Annie Knight,
too good.
eh?
She's a private schoolgirl from Melbourne.
Really?
Yep.
Is she?
Yep.
You're a subscriber, are you, Tony?
And she's
But I've seen her work. She lives on the
seen her
Gold
work.
Coast.
and Doc, she's a fair piece, is she? As we say.
Well, she's obviously a very
Attractive
talented young woman who's earning a lot of money on OnlyFans. So
Well, Doc.
I've never been on there on OnlyFans. I mean, I don't really feel like I've got a need to do it. But I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by businesses that pop up out of nowhere
that
and then become a massive deal. Yeah, I mean,
American company, isn't it? Apparently it's owned by a rabbi. That was a surprise to me.
right. And everything good with Ivan? Is Ivan all good? He's been a bit quiet today.
No, I'm here across the road from Tony here, so I'm just taking all this in.
Ivan went and saw Chicago on Greg Evans's recommendation and couldn't get over the aesthetic appeal of the people, the women in it. He said there were no
body fat.
Oh no, he was
Really?
Yes,
Yeah, very good.
All runway models.
Yeah, Greg Evans, mate. I mean, he's cast his eye over so many attractive people through his lifetime as the former host of Perfect Match. If he's going to give you a lead on something like that, I'd be trusting Greg Evans.
And I did.
Yeah.
Yep, go for it.
And Tony, when are you in Sydney, mate?
I'm reticent to say now, Ben.
I
just wanted to put a warning out there to any Uber driver.
Yeah, him and Mr. Silver might have
No,
coffee
I should
together.
just mate. I should just
pick
put
me
a
up in your
little.
Rolls Royce.
No, I just put a warning out over the radio just to say, look, don't be alarmed.
Yeah.
But there is a man who's coming to Sydney on the following dates who has been known to drink 16 beers, take still knocks, and steal Ubers. So just be careful.
Just borrow them.
As a public service, like
Announcement.
message. Yeah, announcement.
Yeah. It's a community service announcement.
Tony, are you allowed to ride in Ubers? Are you allowed to? There's no problems.
We cool?
No problem.
No problem.
Wow, isn't that nice?
Now look,
Forgiving.
Doc,
Well, there probably will be now.
Doc, I don't want to end this because we love speaking to you, and I'm telling you, we've had Beverly Pinder, who was a former Miss Universe. She has come in and has waited patiently for 20 minutes while not while we speak to you, but while we were speaking earlier to these other three reprobates. So we're going to wind this up now, and
Good on you, mate.
Well, we really
I'll
appreciate you ringing in, Doc.
I'll be listening in to Beverly and to Dick and Ivan and Tony and Paul Silver. Thank you so much for having me on.
Good on you.
Thank you, Doc.
Good on you, mate.
Love yous all. See you, boys.
Love you, mate. Love you, mate.
Bye.
Now we are stopping this now. So
Thank
Tony, Tony, I didn't set that up at all. You know that. Dick and Ivan, we're winding this up. So thank you very much.